Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life, publisher of a couple of magazines here in the community, including Peachtree Corners Magazine. So I appreciate you joining us. We have special guest today, City Councilman Eric Christ. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey Rico, doing great.
Cool. You just renewed I would almost say re-election, but there was really no vote this year because there was no
Well,
opposition,
I,
right?
I did not have an opponent this cycle. Hopefully, that means I'm doing a good job.
Yes.
Yes, I was reelected for another 4-year term. I'll be sworn into for another 4-year term in January at the January
Well,
City Council meeting.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So we got a lot to discuss, but before we get into that, I do want to say thank you to a couple of our sponsors. EV Remodeling, who's a sponsor of ours. Eli lives in here, him and his family in Peachtree Corners. Has done over 260 plus home renovations from kitchens, bath to whole house remodeling. So check them out. They do a great job. It's evremodelinginc.com. Also, Vox Populi. Andrew Hyduke and his family run that. They were here in Peachtree Corners as well. And if you're looking for a company that needs, that you need branding done for, they're the people. So logo, whether it's an apparel, vehicle wrap, or trade show, or anything you can put a logo on, think about it. Anything you can put a logo on. They could do one, or they could do 10,000, or they could do whatever quantity you need, and they do an excellent job. So check them out. Appreciate them being also a sponsor. It's Vox Populi. You could go visit them on their website and find out more information. So, let's talk. There's at least half a dozen things I want to get into. So, the first one is the first group is about roads, right? Road improvement and stuff like that. So, the big talk right now, I think since last Monday, has been Holcomb Bridge Road and Spalding Drive and that whole change of
Right.
traffic, right? No left turns and right turns permitted and stuff. So, what have you heard? I mean, most people hopefully have that have experienced it know where we're talking about, but
Share a couple details and
yeah,
some feedback I've heard from the community. And I think, to take a step back, one thing people don't always necessarily appreciate is that in the city of Peachtree Corners, we actually have three entities that manage different roads. So we
right,
have city streets, like in your subdivision and my subdivision. We
right,
have county roads. So when we became a city, Gwinnett County said, we're going to keep responsibility for maintaining Spalding Drive or Peachtree Corners Circle or East Jones Bridge Road, which we'll perhaps
hmm
talk about in a minute. But then we
right,
also have the state, uh, the Georgia Department of Transportation, affectionately known as GDOT, and they have responsibility for two roads in our city. So that's Peachtree Parkway,
hmm
along the Forum, but then also Holcomb Bridge Road is a state route. I say all that just to explain that the intersection at Spalding and Holcomb Bridge Road, because Holcomb Bridge Road is State Route 140 at that
hmm
point. This is a Georgia Department of Transportation project that dates back about 4 years, that they've been looking at ways to increase um, traffic throughput going north south on Holcomb Bridge Road. You know, that's the state route.
right,
GDOT's focus is how do we get more cars going north and south, right? They're less concerned about cars on Spalding,
hmm
right? And so
right,
they looking at that intersection. It's probably a little small. It's pretty crammed in there. There
right,
wasn't really room to widen it or add additional left turn lanes or anything like that. So they came up with a concept, which has the cute name of jug handles. And so if you
mm,
look at a map, you have the intersection of Holcomb Ridge and Spalding, but then you have these two roads, Weatherburn Way, that cuts from Spalding down to Holcomb Bridge South. And then
mhm,
you also have River Exchange drives. If you're coming across the bridge from Dunwoody, you can turn on River Exchange. And if you look at them, they sort of look like two jug handles.
mhm,
And so what they've done is effective last Tuesday, they have removed the left turns from Spalding. And I want to be really clear on that. Sometimes people get like all the left turns. No, no, just if you're on Spalding and you're approaching Holcomb Bridge Road, if you want to turn left, you either have to go use Weatherburn Way if you're coming from Peachtree Corners and want to go south, you turn left onto Weatherburn and then left onto Holcomb Bridge Road. Or conversely, if you're coming from Dunwoody over the Crooked Creek Bridge and you want to go left, you want to go north on Holcomb Bridge Road towards Roswell, you have to turn on River Exchange. That's the only thing that's changed. So you can still turn right if you're on Holcomb Bridge Road itself and you want to turn left so you can go to the little public shopping center, you can. No changes there. And in addition to removing those lefts, they did extensive work to enhance the intersections at both ends of River Exchange and at both ends of Weatherburn Way. There's new traffic signals, there's new left turn lanes, there's new additional room for that. And so it's gone live. The thing I've heard from people, in the first week, lots of emails, they need more signs saying no left turn. And they have, they weren't quite done, right? So because they had to take the turns away so they could they've poured concrete medians to indicate, oh, you shouldn't be turning left here. They put new signs that say no left turns, no U-turns.
And they put that, I haven't been down that road since Tuesday. They put that ahead of the intersection, I would imagine, right?
They did. One of the quirks of GDOT is, so like if you're coming from Peachtree Corners Circle, you're on Spalding, you're about to pass the bowling alley on your right, there's a sign that says turn left on Weatherburn and to go to Norcross, which sort of makes sense. Norcross is that way down Holcomb Bridge, but it says to go on Holcomb Bridge Road east. And so I was talking to our director of public works and I said, that's not east, it's mostly south. And he goes, Eric, here's the way the GDOT thinks. State Route 140 is an even number, 140, right? And then under Georgia the traffic manual, even state routes go east to west.
Oh, wow.
So if you're, but that's not east.
So there's a reason for it. That's amazing.
There's a reason for it. It doesn't make, I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense. And coming the other direction out of Dunwoody, the same thing, turn left onto River Exchange to go Holcomb Bridge Road west. Although I think most people think of it as north. And they did make a mistake. They had a sign that said that way to Norcross. So no, they can't both be the same way to Norcross. That sign has come down. So what I've heard from people is, Eric, people are still turning left. Well, yeah, just like people go over the speed limit, right? So that and I think what's happening, Rico, is that as people who use that intersection, but perhaps they don't use it very often, they are assuming, well, last month I turned left here when I was going to my eye doctor. But once they get up to the front of the line, no left, multiple signs saying no left turns, people honking at them, they might still try to make a left against the light or against the sign, but they're learning. They probably won't do that again. And the other thing we're waiting for, and this doesn't take another week or so, is for the GPS systems, the nav systems to get updated.
What does that do?
Google Maps.
You mean the maps? Okay.
Yeah, right. So and that's the GDOT can't force them to do that, but they generally try to coordinate. And at least I can't remember if it was Apple Maps or Google Maps. One of them had already figured it out because I think it was actually my in-car nav system, little plug for Hyundai. I drive a Hyundai, and its nav system had figured out that I needed to turn on Weatherburn.
Is there a sign that says left turn here at Weatherburn, no left turn at Holcomb Bridge?
I don't know if it's that explicit. So that brings up another good point. So I was chatting with our city director of public works, and he says, and I said, people are still concerned, and he said, well, Eric, let's let GDOT finish. And then if we as the city decide additional signage is needed, while Holcomb Bridge is a state route, it's also in the city, and we can certainly spend, they're not that expensive, some additional city dollars to put up more signs to say
Spalding Drive a county, you said?
Spalding is a county road, but once again, they're all in the city. So if we want to put signs up, like to say, at least I'd love to say Holcomb Bridge, turn here for Holcomb Bridge South to Norcross and to, one of the things I do know is that for residents of the city,
Yeah.
if you live pretty much past Jaybird Alley and you're trying to go to like Norcross, you're trying to get on Peachtree Boulevard to go to the Dorville MARTA station, you're not going to come over to this intersection. It's
No.
out of the way. You're going to take Peachtree Corners Circle,
Right. Right.
or you're going to, like, for where you are, you might just, I'm just going to get on Peachtree Parkway because it's
Hmm.
bigger and faster, right?
Yeah.
So only the people who like Peachtree Forest and farther west, including my neighborhood, potentially use that intersection as much. There are certainly
Yeah.
people who commute to work in Dunwoody or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. As I mean, it's not gonna, I mean, it's an inconvenience for a little while until people learn what's going on there and which route to take, right?
Well, I
So,
was talking to a constituent just the other night who does work towards Dunwoody, and she loves it. She's in Spalding
hmm.
Corners, which is right
Yeah.
off of Spalding. And the
Hmm.
reason is when she's coming home, she's on Spalding. Previously, she'd have to wait potentially during evening rush for multiple cycles of light because people turning left on Holcomb Bridge would
Right.
overflow the little tiny left
Yeah.
turn storage area
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and they would be blocking that lane trying to turn
Yeah.
left because they hadn't yet learned to use river exchange. And so she said, I love it now because those two lanes are designed
Yeah.
to just get you over Holcomb Bridge Road, get you onto Spalding,
Eh,
and she finds she gets home faster.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think, people are just used to certain things sometimes, and it becomes an inconvenience, but eventually people will get used to it. Now, that's an improvement, nothing bad there, right? It's still traffic is flowing,
It is.
right?
I
So,
think the thing I've been thinking about. Let's say it is a disaster, Rico. Let's say a year from now it's backed up and people undoing the removal of the left turns is not that complicated a project.
right.
You chop up some concrete, you
Yeah.
put the left turns back
Yeah.
in, and then we've still gotten four other improved intersections: the
Yes.
two on Weatherburn and the two on River
I know
Avenue.
I know that's a good thought, but GDOT moves slowly on these things, right? So,
They can, well, here
but
potentially the city could say this isn't working out. If GDOT agrees, then maybe we spend a little city money to put them back in.
okay.
So
So going from this side of the city where it's not so
yeah,
bad, traffic is moving at least. So let's go to the side of the city where there's going to be an improvement where traffic may not be moving. So we're going to talk about the bridge at East Jones Bridge Road.
yeah,
That's going to be replaced sometime in 26.
right,
Yeah, so when I heard of it, for some reason, I don't know, I hadn't seen the full details. I just heard there was going to be a bridge replaced on East Jones Bridge. I'm thinking the pedestrian bridge. I totally forgot that the street is a bridge right there,
right,
crossing over a creek,
right.
because so you think of the pedestrian, but that middle part, that two-lane part, has to be replaced now because it's at its end
Yeah,
of its cycle
I
almost.
would say it's not. It's approaching the end of its
Yes.
useful life, right? It's certainly
Yeah.
safe to drive on and that sort of thing. And just for the folks who might not know, if you take East Jones Bridge and you're heading towards Jones Bridge Park,
Mhm.
you pass Waterside on your right, and just past Waterside, there's a creek, Farrell Creek, which leads into the Chattahoochee. And so there's people may not think of it as a bridge, but it is. It's a bridge with two car lanes on it, and then there's two pedestrian bridges that sort of
Right.
flank it on either side.
Right.
And the that that the vehicle bridge is what's triggering this project. Gwinnett County's, inspects it regularly, and the inspections are saying it's time. I was I asked them, and they're looking this up for me exactly how old it is. I certainly, that bridge hasn't been changed in the 30 years that I've been here
Yeah.
in the city, so it's at least 30 years old, and probably older than that. And as with any piece of public infrastructure, it
Uh-huh.
eventually, and particularly it's in because there's a creek underneath it. That means with it's water, and water, takes
Yeah,
its
humidity,
toll on things.
condensation, all that stuff.
I think the big challenge for the community, their concern from the community is uh, to do this project. What the county is saying, they plan to start in early 2026, that it would last 9 to 12 months. And during that 9 to 12 months, for about 4 months, and probably near the middle or the end of that 9 to 12 months, right, the road
Right.
would be closed to traffic because they would have taken out the old bridge and they're putting a new one in.
Right.
And so that means like if you live in Riverfield and you want to go to Simpson Elementary or to Johns Bridge Park,
Mm.
what was a 3 minute drive becomes a long detour uh, down East Johns Bridge to Peachtree Parkway to Peachtree Corner Circle, the West Johns Bridge to Johns Bridge Circle. Sort of, if
Mm.
you've ever looked at the light up the corners course, or or run it, that is
Yeah.
certainly doing the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah. You say that, but all I'm thinking is, I don't know, Amberfield's a good cut through to get to the
Well,
other side.
I'm not going to say that, and the county's official detour does not go through Amberfield, but
No, no, for sure. But anyone that lives in Peachtree Corners
well,
be
yeah.
like,
Well, people use Broad Green, Edgerton, and I'll keep the other streets' names a
just like,
secret. I'm
yeah.
sure some people will, because I'm sure, Rico, some people do that today,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, for
Yeah, if you
sure.
live on
Okay.
East Jones Bridge and you want to go to Simpsonwood
Yeah.
Park,
I
right?
mean, right, right.
You might cut through
Maybe,
Amberfield,
yeah.
but
I mean,
right,
I don't do that. I mean, I live on West Johns Bridge by the school, by Picnickville, right? Just up by Rivercrest.
right.
So I'll go around sometimes, take my time, just go around and come down East Jones Bridge to go to Ingalls. Could go the other way. So,
Yeah,
you know, GPS wants me to go the other way, but I don't feel like that. I just feel like going back around that way, right? There's,
sure. Well, because
but
your GPS is probably saying it's physically shorter to go the other
yes,
way,
right.
but the way you go doesn't involve any traffic signals.
That's right. It's all right turns all the way to the outside.
And I would say it's probably a little more less stressful of a drive. There's just
Yeah.
fewer cars, and
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
get stuck at the light at
Yeah.
the quick trip waiting for it to change.
That's right. So, but now they're going to be closed for. So let me ask you, the two-lane part, the traffic part, is what
Right.
they want to replace. They had replaced one of the pedestrian bridge not too long ago. Are they going to touch the pedestrian bridges?
Yeah,
Are
they
those
are.
going
Yeah.
to?
So the small one that they didn't replace is
Right.
also pretty rusty, and
Yeah.
it needs to be replaced. And the design they've come up with, and there'll be a community meeting just after the new year, date to be finalized, where people can come and see these plans. But
Hmm.
the design does incorporate uh, the 2 lane, car lanes, and then a sidewalk on both sides. And what that would mean for the bridge that was recently replaced, it would be picked up and moved. So the one on the waterside side
Okay.
is still it's like less than 2 years old, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's what's called precast construction. So it's
Hmm.
built as a piece and brought there. And
Hmm.
so the plan is to pick it up and move it somewhere else in the trail system that we have here
Oh, okay.
in
So not even stay there. So it's going to be a complete new thing over there.
Right. It's sort of be a mini
Okay.
version of the Crooked Creek Bridge on Spalding, where you
Hmm.
have the sidewalk or the walking, the multi-use trail incorporated into
Wow.
the bridge itself.
Okay.
Uh, and the other thing they said they would do is they're going to raise it about 2 feet higher than it is now,
Okay.
to based on modern standards for being in a floodplain,
Hmm.
and to based on their estimates of they call 100-year flood event, that
Right.
it should only get X high once every 100 years, that it would still be above the level of the 100-year flood,
Hmm.
so that
Okay.
it wouldn't get. And I don't personally know if that bridge has ever gotten. Sure, from once in a while it might have flooded, but it's as I said, when it
No,
was built
yeah, I don't.
40 whatever years ago,
Yeah.
it's sitting a little too low, so it'll be a little
Yeah.
higher, uh, but it's going to be the same capacity. They're not adding additional lanes or anything like
Right,
that, or
right.
making
Just
it
2 lanes. Yeah.
significantly
I mean,
bigger,
the
right?
pedestrian bridge sides might be
Yeah,
the
and those two,
standard.
those bridges will go away, and then they'll
Okay.
reconnect the sidewalk into
Okay.
the
So
into the
the meeting they're going to have really, so that people understand, this is an informational meeting.
right,
It's not a
right.
meeting to decide whether they're going to do it or not. This is
No,
happening.
they already have it programmed in as
Yeah.
part of their 2026 SPLOST campaign, or SPLOST project list,
Right.
and it's being driven. The county, just like the city, doesn't like to do work they don't have to do. Right?
Hmm.
There's always way too many more projects than money,
Right.
but based on the age of this vehicle bridge,
Yeah.
it's time to replace it.
We were talking something about the water main. I think it was a water main, right? Or a drain that on Flippin
Stormwater,
Trail,
flipping trail,
stormwater.
yeah.
Yeah. So explain so then people could remember about that. And the good part is that sometimes you should look at replacing things ahead of
Sure.
time versus waiting until it's going to happen.
Yeah, my wife affectionately refers to it as the flippin' hole. So flippin' trail, which is
Right.
inside Peachtree Station. There's a point where it crosses a creek that runs along Clinch Field and then heads. I think that must go into Simpsonwood, if I'm thinking my geography correctly. I don't actually know the name of that particular creek. When Peachtree Station was developed in the 70s, the
Mhm.
developer put in three 36-inch metal culvert type pipes. And gosh, it was pre-pandemic, so maybe 2018, 2019, during a heavy rainstorm, uh, the wall, the upstream wall collapsed
Yeah.
because of all the water undermined the rock there. And so that was just after about the 6 months or so, is my recollection, that where the city had taken on responsibility for stormwater infrastructure
Yeah. Hmm.
here in Peachtree Corners. When we became a city in 2012, that was a county responsibility, but staff looked at it and uh, came and said, made the recommendation, hey, we think, and we, for those folks who don't read the fine details of their property tax bill, there's a little in the other fees section, there's a little thing that talks about stormwater utility fee. And so we all property owners in Peachtree Corners
Yeah.
pay a small amount to maintain the public stormwater infrastructure.
Mhm.
And so that money had been going to the county, and city staff said, we think we can provide a more local focused, higher level of service. And so we told the county, we're going to take that over. So those fees started coming to the city. And one of the things, obviously, the first thing you do when you take over a service like that is do an inventory, what's
Sure.
out there,
Sure.
find all the storm drains and the pipes and the culverts and the ditches that are part of the stormwater infrastructure. And they had identified, this is aging pretty poorly from mid 70s, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so it did fail in that rainstorm. And
And that road was closed for, I don't, I
couple,
forget.
yeah, I'm gonna go look that up. It was at
Yeah.
least 2 months,
Mhm.
to my recollection, to put
So,
that back together.
yeah. So like anything you do in a house, you really want to repair it before the problem starts.
This is true. Although and the way they fixed that particular the flipping hole was from three 36-inch pipes, it went to a gigantic 96-inch central pipe and
Yeah.
two 84-inch flanking pipes made out of reinforced concrete. So significant upgrade, and should last 50 years,
Good.
if not more, as opposed to rusting
Right.
metal culverts that the
Yeah.
developer had put
Well,
in.
I guess at the time that might have made sense, but
Well, yeah, as unfortunately sometimes, and that's why it's great we have a stormwater department and a building inspection team. Like, so as new
yeah.
developments, whether residential or commercial, are built here in Peachtree Corners, we keep them,
Yeah.
uh, make sure they're keeping up to the current version of the code. So,
So So we've gone from one side of the city to the other, and then there's another road now that's going to get
mhm.
some redesign on it. This goes back to Curiosity Lab, the autonomous vehicle lane that was established some years back.
six
Um,
6 years ago. Yep.
6 years ago, right? It's been a long time. Yeah. It's gone by fast, actually. Um, but things change, right, in the industry. I mean, I went to a convention at the World Congress Center not too long ago, and I saw at least three cars whiz by me. No one in the car. It was autonomous vehicles, right? Just whizzing by. It's all good, you know? So there's three, and they're on the main road and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, why can they be here and why can't they be somewhere else? Like, why can't we do that
Right.
in
Right.
Peachtree Corners or wherever? And then I hear that things are changing on that redesign on Technology Parkway for some of the same reasons, right?
Yeah. We'll talk about that. And actually, just today, Rico is reading the science fiction books, set in the near future,
Mm.
and the main character, he's playing chess with his daughter at home, and he gets an alert on his phone that the food has arrived. So he goes out to the curb, and there's a driverless car, and the food's, the takeout food is sitting in the
Right. Yes.
passenger seat. So that might have been science.
Was it Uber Eats?
Well, yes, and I have checked the copyright date of the book. Maybe 5 years ago. I said what was science fiction 5 years ago
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
now it's soon to become reality.
Crazy.
So when we first set up a Curiosity Lab as the business incubator with a focus around autonomous vehicle and smart vehicle technologies,
Hmm.
what we created those autonomous vehicle lanes on Technology Parkway,
Hmm.
running from Peachtree Parkway up to Spalding, and got great use out of them. Had multiple companies
Oh yeah.
use it, but either for long term or even just short term technology testing. Uh, After we opened that up, one of the things we got feedback was we need a traffic signal we can interact with. And at that time, the intersection of Technology Parkway and Technology Parkway
Yes.
South
Right.
was just a three-way stop.
Hmm.
And so, okay, so we put in a traffic signal there. It was obviously better for drivers as well, but so now the vehicles can interact with a traffic signal. And so that's been working great. But what we hear now is that autonomous vehicles are smarter and drive faster. One of the reasons for the separate lanes wasn't so much that the vehicles would veer out and hit a car. It was more that they didn't go particularly fast.
Right.
So you didn't want, if you had just a regular travel lane, you in your car, you'd be stuck there going behind a little 25, 30 mile an hour autonomous vehicle.
Yeah.
Now they might not travel at highway speeds, but they certainly travel at, you know,
I think up to 45 miles an hour
right.
is the thing now. Yeah.
And so what those companies are telling us is we just, it's a better, real world experience for us, or a better test of our vehicles if they're just in a regular travel lane.
Yeah.
So we don't want a separate lane anymore. That's not a fair test or a rigorous test of our capabilities.
Yeah.
And so the plan is for Technology Parkway to remove those little rubber stoppers. People affectionately call them
God,
armadillos.
yes. Those bumps that either kill you if you're riding a bike or maim your car or
Right.
something. Yeah.
So they're going to pull those up and then restripe it. We're going to keep. So before we did this project 6 years ago, it had a center turning lane.
Yeah.
The length of Technology Parkway that wasn't needed in many places, right? There's no place to turn. You don't need a center
Mm.
turning lane. And so what the plan is to restripe it to, in some places, put a left turn lane right
Hmm.
out of the way, but the rest of it, try to keep it as a parkway field,
Okay.
have a broader car lanes, so the armadillos won't be there anymore. Um, and then I know that some people have enjoyed those autonomous vehicle lanes as almost as dedicated bike lanes. I've certainly biked in them,
Okay.
but the plan is that we'll have what are called sharrows, the arrows on the ground that say, "Hey, share this lane with bicycles." They'll be wider than they are now, so there'll be
Hmm.
room for the bicyclists to be over to the side.
Okay.
But to max, because we want to keep traffic flowing. There every now and then there are times in like evening rush when there are parts of that slow down when
So
people
that's
are.
going to happen in 26, I guess.
Yeah, staff has presented the design. I think we got to go to bid, finish the design or
Hmm.
finalize the design and then go to bid. So, but I think the plan is to try to do that in 20, because
Okay.
and they could pull the armadillos up. That just takes like a special wrench or something. But then
Right.
you have these weird two lanes that people may not know which one they're supposed to be in and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. I mean, I've been speaking to a few people with that work in office and stuff, and the complaints have always been why was this put here? And it's just people like to complain about things, but
Well,
because
yeah, I
it
think because I ride that drive that road, particularly when I go to City Hall, a couple times a month,
okay,
and the car lanes were just a little too narrow. They met
it
they
is.
met the legal requirement, but just
Yeah.
people felt a little, particularly with the armadillos there.
Yeah.
You veered to the right, and all of a sudden you hit one, and then you come back.
Yeah, I do I drive there too a lot. Also, just sometimes I'll even drive through there just because I want to versus
Right.
let's say going up the other way. But yeah, no, I've seen people even come closer to me on the lane because they want to get away from the thing. And I'm like, where are they going? It's like,
Right.
stay in your
Yeah. So
lane.
we'll have as I said, it'll be restructured more like a parkway,
Yeah.
still two travel lanes, uh, not dedicated bike lanes, but room for bikes. And another, I think, a great feature of the project is that we have a trail around lakes there in Technology
Yeah.
Park,
Hmm.
but there's not really a place to park if you're not walking to that trail. Because we have people who like to fish on that lake.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know if I would eat the fish, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
don't think I would
yeah.
do
But
that.
but hey, people like to fish. This is great. So if you're on Technology Parkway, you've passed um, the engineering drive, the road that leads you down to the racetrack. And
Yes.
so coming up before you get to the traffic signal with Technology Parkway South, which also has a new name, Rico. I don't know if you know that. That
Hmm.
street's been renamed Innovation Drive
Ah, look at
because, and I might be the reason behind this. I had an office at one point on Technology Parkway South, and I always thought it was odd and confusing to people to try to explain Technology Parkway South.
that. Yeah.
And so we took the opportunity recently
To rename it.
to rename that, so it's now Innovation Drive. But anyway, before you get to the traffic signal, on your left there's this little cutout where there's like a FedEx box and a
Yes.
UPS box and like a
Yeah.
little turnaround.
Yep. Go.
We're going to use that land, which is in the city's right of way.
Uh,
We'll keep the FedEx box and things, but we're going to create a 3 to 5, however many, parking spaces. So you
hmm.
would park there, and then there'll be a crosswalk and that's right at where the trail comes out below
Okay.
what's called the
Yes.
ASHRAE
Yes.
building. And so
Yes.
there'll be a mini trailhead
Well, that's
for people who
cool.
want to
Okay.
come use the lake who aren't coming by foot or bike.
Okay.
So I think that'll be a great addition.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Let me ask you a question, just a quick question on because talking about this and the lanes are not needed anymore like that. Is the so in the city of Atlanta, the driverless cars are fine. They drive there, but I haven't seen that here. Is there a reason why they can't be in
No,
like
I think
driving?
just because we're out farther in the suburbs, they're not. There's nothing in the city ordinances that prohibit them.
Okay.
And we did have a company called May Mobility, which
Yes,
was
sure.
where they will come. They drive on a regular street. I don't know how much activity they're getting used here. I mean, I think what you generally see with new technologies, the new transportation technologies,
Hmm.
Rico, is that you see the initial use in the higher density, urban core,
Sure.
right? And then
Yes.
it's same thing you saw with the electric scooters
Hmm.
or electric
Yeah,
bikes
yeah,
or
yeah.
that
Those are
kind
like
of thing.
yeah, we had electric scooters here, and I always thought that was why, because it didn't make sense to me. There was no one using them.
Right, right.
But I can see like I think May Mobility had like a mini mobile besides the car, and I could see that being used. Going from people's homes that are may not have a car or may have mobility issues, maybe doing that here. But I guess so. I was wondering if there was a restriction. I didn't
No,
think
there's
so.
not.
Okay.
No, but that is you talk about users of that service here in Peachtree Corners. With our cul-de-sac communities,
Yeah.
some of us like I live in Neely Farm, and as the crow flies, I'm not that far from like Peachtree Corners Cafe on Spalding.
Right.
But if I have to walk my sidewalk, it's a long ways by the time
Yes.
you curve around all the cul-de-sacs and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple years ago, I was at a Georgia Municipal Association training class and talking about aging populations and how you support your older residents. And
Hmm.
one of the stats that they shared, which has stuck with me, is that uh, for many people, you live in your house, you're able to live at home for
Right.
about 10 years longer than you're comfortable driving.
Hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So you're still able to, you don't need to be in a assisted living or skilled nursing facility. You're living at home,
Yeah. Yeah.
all those types of things.
Yeah.
But perhaps you're not comfortable driving at night anymore, or you're
Yeah.
definitely not comfortable driving, on Peachtree boulevard where it's,
Right. Sure.
elevated high speed, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in your cul-de-sac and you're not comfortable driving, or maybe your kids aren't comfortable having you
With
drive,
yeah.
right?
There's that
So
too. Sure.
how do you get to the hair salon? How do you get to the grocery store?
Right. Right.
That those types of things. So a Waymo, a May Mobility,
Yeah.
you call them a Waymo
Yeah.
car, it comes, picks you up, and takes you to the salon at
Right.
town center,
Well, and
and
that's the whole idea of why they were there to experiment with that, right?
right,
But all right. The talking about the forum or a shopping center,
right,
but the forum is going to be doing some changes maybe starting in 26, I guess. They're already there's a store. So Old Navy left. Barnes and Noble is moving. Anyone that noticed that someone had said, "Where are they moving to?" Well, it's a store that says bookmark this place, right?
right,
You know, so they're going to be moving it to the Old Navy store. And there's just a lot of changes going on. But one of the bigger parts that they have that they were rezoned for some years back was that multifamily.
right.
Um, so they're gonna. So why don't you explain a little bit about and the parking deck also that was
Yeah,
originally
yeah.
going to go behind
Bell,
Belk's
right.
is not happening that way anymore. So give us a general idea what's happening at this point.
Yeah. So and the forum went through an ownership change of a sort, right? So a couple years ago, uh, 4 or 5 years ago, right? The forum was purchased by North American Properties, which is
Right.
a very large national company. I guess North American, right? Maybe Canadian and Mexican
Yeah.
properties as well. So about a year and a half ago, North American sold all of its Georgia properties
Hmm.
to a company called Jamestown Properties. So Jamestown is the current owner of the Forum and Avenues East Cobb and uh, the Colony Square and Midtown, all those sorts of
Right.
things. Jamestown, from my experience, has been a good company. They're Atlanta based, so they got to focus on investing in, maintaining, growing um, their Georgia properties. So the forum, as you rightfully said, Rico had come to us a couple years ago and said, uh, what when the forum was originally built in 2002, it was fairly innovative at its time, sort of an outdoor version of a mall.
Right.
It did great business. I think Belk is one of the original tenants, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
And Barnes and Noble also an original tenant, right? So they've been there for 23
Yeah.
years, which
Yeah.
that's a long time in retail to
Yeah.
be. Some of the restaurants have changed. I think Ted's Montana has been there pretty
They were
almost
one
the
of the
whole time,
originals at that
right?
time.
Jason's Deli. I think the other restaurants have swapped out over time. Moe's. I think Moe's was an original tenant as
Yes.
well when that strip was added
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um, so they came to us and said, we'd like to, in addition to the retail, the restaurant space, we need to add a third R, which is residential. And that because they said we have enough people who live around us for 10, 20 years, shop here, get bored with our restaurants, go somewhere else. We think adding people on the property who live there 1 to 2 to 3 years in a rental
In a
type
cycle.
style,
Yeah.
will help activate the property from early in the morning, to come down and get a coffee till later in the evening, and having people right there. So that they came and applied for things like changing how they've done the parking down the center, building those little gathering spots, even doing the parking deck. And they've
Hmm.
also talked in the vision was a hotel. All of those kinds of things were already permitted in commercial zoning, which is what they are. But the residential rezoning did require a public hearing and a vote by the city council, and it was approved. And so they had that plan, and they've said piece by piece been working on that. So the first thing they did was build the center plazas, right?
Hmm.
And which I think have been quite
The North
successful
Plaza
for
and the
them,
Plaza. Right.
right? And they put that big screen up,
Right.
and
Right.
then the next thing they did was, but once again, something they didn't need our approval to do, was to create Politan Row, the little food hall
Right.
that's
And
there. If
Millie's
you have
Pizza. Sure.
folks that have been there, go check it out. If you got people in your family you don't always agree on what type of food they like to eat, it's a great place to go because there's seven different choices.
And
Uh,
there's actually a new burger place in there too that just
right,
opened.
right.
Yeah. And
And right next door, the Aomi Japanese
it used to be
food,
Aomi. Now it's Park
right?
27. It's
Park
Korean.
27. I've been
Was
there
there.
twice,
I
and
had lunch there yesterday. It was great. It
it's
was,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Like you got this little grill right in the middle of your table,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
bring you shrimp or
Mhm.
steak and vegetables, and you get to they'll grill it, or you can do it yourself. It's a
Yeah,
great
yeah. No, it's
experience.
great looking place too. Just a lot
Yeah.
of good artwork, good stuff there. It's a nice atmosphere.
So that leads to parking deck. So they knew that well, if we take these parking spaces out in the center drive lane,
Yeah.
we still want to have more parking. Plus, if we do a hotel and residential, we need parking for those uses as well.
Right.
So they had originally thought about or planned for a parking deck on the Belk side, and which obviously overlooks the Amberfield subdivision.
Hmm.
And so put the city council, we put lots of conditions about screening for light and for noise and appearance. Uh, for and I don't think it's Rigo because of those conditions, but now they've decided that it makes more sense to have the parking facilities be on the Peachtree Parkway side. So right now the plan is the Belk parking lot stays the same as it is, just a little surface parking lot. So the next things they're working on is a parking deck.
Right.
And so what's happening is Barnes and Noble wants to stay at the Forum. They just don't want to be in that big of a space. They don't build bookstores that big anymore.
Right.
So Barnes and Noble is going to move to where Old Navy was. And if you've driven along Peachtree Parkway, you might have seen them. They sort of chopped the Old Navy space, which was also too big for Barnes and
Hmm.
Noble, in half.
Yeah.
And so the plan is by next fall, Barnes and Noble will have moved there. I think they're trying to get that done before like the holiday season next year,
Hmm.
right? So once they've done that, then Barnes and Noble has been vacated. And so the plan right now, and these can change, right? Financing,
For
interest
sure.
rates, you
Right.
know, the world keeps changing. But right now, the plan is to use the footprint of the Barnes and Noble building, at least sort of the back 2/3 of it, uh, and then to have the apartment rental units running from there down to where the new Barnes and Noble is. Also to have some rental on the other side, across from where the Chipotle uh,
Yeah.
in that little strip,
Okay. Right. Right.
and to have the apartment building on that side actually connect to the bridge landing. So if you're
Hmm.
living in those apartments, you could walk out. You wouldn't have to go up and down stairs.
So
Get
another little bridge to the bridge or something.
a bridge, and that um, uh, and there would obviously be parking facilities that would be there would be dedicated space for the apartment tenants. That the hotel is also still in the mix at this. I can't recall which side of the Forum Drive the hotel goes on. I think it's on the Chipotle side,
Hmm.
and then a bigger parking facility. I think where the back of the Barnes and Noble was, that would
Yeah.
serve the apartment building on that side and serve just shoppers as well. Like I don't know, like first the two stories of shopper parking and then a story
So we're
of
really
parking.
we're really looking at maybe 27 if anything starts.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think parking deck starts next year. My understanding is the hotel comes next, and then
Yeah.
apartments are last.
Okay.
So yeah, so 2026 you should. Barnes and Noble has to move,
Yeah.
and then they start and they construct a
Yeah.
parking deck. So yeah, 27, 28
Yeah.
before
Sounds like that.
I'll get an update from staff on that process.
There's also going to be another that was already approved. That was just bought by a company, I guess. The apartments, multifamily that's going to be in Atlanta Tech Park,
Correct.
300 units.
Yes, that's on
That was just
Innovation Drive, formerly
Innovation Drive.
Technology
There you
Parkway
go.
South.
Right. Right.
There were a couple older style office buildings.
Yeah.
Uh, Actually, I looked this one up because this was about 4 years ago. They came to the council for rezoning, because once again it was commercial office zoned and you can't live there. and that one was approved. It was a split vote, 5-2. That's a project I didn't actually vote for, Rico, but that owner started the project, demolished some of the office
Right.
buildings, and then they got bought by a bigger company. And
Hmm.
that company said, we don't like the financials at the ROI on that particular property. Then another company came in just in the last year,
Yeah.
and they actually shrank the number of apartment units. They
Mm.
dropped, I can't remember the exact count, 35. So it shrank it a little bit, but they're now back into construction there. So
Sounds
that's,
like it. And they're talking about 300 units and probably not
yeah, it's
starting
like
till,
326 down from 380
yeah.
ish. Yeah.
Yeah. And it won't start until 27, maybe, is what I understand.
In terms of,
Or
yeah,
completed.
leasing, right? Yeah, I think they'll be constructing all next year.
Yeah.
The company that's doing it is Broadstone, or
Correct. So,
the same. It's
yeah.
ended up being the same company as that did the development just north of the
Yeah.
racetrack on
Yeah. Yeah.
Parkway.
Yep. All right, cool. Um, so let's get into, let's see, I guess two more things and then
Sure,
we'll call it a night. We're doing this on a Wednesday evening, everyone. So you won't be listening to this on a Wednesday evening, but probably. But there's a report that came out, and I know it's not on the website yet, on the city website, but maybe you could give us the skinny on it. It's about the deer population, that final report that came out.
sure.
Just to give us, what is it? And
Yeah, I think people know that uh, there's a lot of deer around, and so to answer the question is it the same number of deer that we're just seeing them more often, or are there more deer? The city retained a wildlife biologist. They put up a bunch of trail cameras throughout the city, and then he analyzed all that video footage. And so his report is being finalized. Once we have it, we'll publish it, and I'll certainly link to it in my newsletter and that sort of thing. Let people read it. We've gotten a few of the highlights have been previewed with us, and that's his estimate is we have over 2,700 deer
wow,
in Peachtree Corners.
wow.
And when you divide that by the square mileage of the city,
Mm,
that's about 193 deer per square mile. And when you
wow.
compare that to in a natural setting,
Yeah.
North Georgia somewhere, the generally you see about 25 deer per square mile. So
Mm,
193 versus 25, that's more than 7 times higher per square mile.
mm,
So there are a lot of deer in Peachtree Corners.
mm.
And why is that? One, the Chattahoochee River and the wooded lands along it provide a natural corridor for them. What we've built, like at your house there in River Stream or mine in Neely Farm,
Hmm.
a grassy area with little scattered trees is perfect habitat for white-tailed deer. That's where they like to be. They don't like the deep
Yeah.
forest. They don't like the big open plains. They like to graze, browse, but be near trees when a predator shows up. But they don't have any predators in Georgia.
No, they don't. Yeah. At least not
Wolves
here.
were exterminated from Georgia years ago. So other than cars and people,
Yeah.
they don't have any predators. So the 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 next step is that the city is we can't, the city itself can't hunt or regulate wildlife.
Mhm.
That's reserved to the state and to the federal government here in Georgia. So we've signed a contract with the USDA, which, interestingly enough, you'd think, what does the
Yeah.
Department of Agriculture have to do
Yeah.
with deer? But the USDA Wildlife Services Management is a
Mm.
division of the USDA. And so they're going to come up with a plan in terms of how do we manage this very large population of deer here in Peachtree Corners for the health of the deer herd, but also the safety of
Sure.
our residents. I just had an email last week, a horrific story. A resident on Gunnan
Hmm.
two greyhounds, members of the family, a buck in rut. It's been breeding season.
Hmm.
Jumped their fence and gored one of their dogs,
Oh,
and
wow.
it had to be put down. Uh,
Wow.
and so they lost a family family
Wow.
pet to a deer. And obviously that's a rare
It's a
occurrence, but
rare,
just
sure.
deer, particularly during the rut, can
Yeah.
be aggressive.
Yeah.
So
We've seen just last week, I think there were five deers walking through our property and 3.3 with three males, with
the
pointers.
antlers, right?
Um, yeah, they were fine, but yeah, you're right. I mean, things can happen sometimes. Um, it's good to see them. It's part of nature,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and they'll
But
always be here, right? The
yeah,
question is just, yeah, what is
yeah,
a healthy level of deer
yeah.
in the area? So more to come. Stay tuned on that particular
Okay,
topic.
cool. Um, Safety. Um, I guess the last issue that we're going to
Yeah.
talk about for this evening. There's more to come in January probably on this, and there's been as people know, a lot of discussion about public safety,
Hmm.
public meetings, neighborhood meetings, lots of discussion on next door, through other things, pros and cons, for and against. Um, so why don't obviously, at this point, it sounds like the city council, no one's brought anything to the city council. All this
Yeah,
discussion is
yeah. I
prior
think it's
to,
important to say, yeah, this is not. This hasn't been voted on. A vote isn't scheduled. There isn't even a scheduled to have a vote. if that makes
right, right,
sense. The current contract that has City of Peachtree Corners be part of what's called the Gwinnett Police Services District. So that's a district managed by the county commission that includes all of unincorporated Gwinnett. So that's all parts of Gwinnett that aren't in a city, plus 8 of the 17 cities are part of this police services district. So the contract we have with the county, it runs until 2050, 2050.
wow,
Uh, and so
that's a long time.
that's a long time. There is the opportunity to give notice and exit
Mhm.
early, but we would have to. I point all that out to say we would have to take a proactive step, right? By not voting, we are continuing as is, right? The status quo continues until any of those 8 cities says, we want to do our own thing.
Mhm.
So, and the other thing I think it's important to share from my perspective is this is not something that's just been discussed in terms of public safety as a topic this year. I mean, public safety is, in Eric's opinion, one of the, if not the most important service that a city provides to its residents, right?
Mhm.
Keeping people safe. Maybe after a drinking water, right? If your taps didn't turn on,
Right.
you might society might break down faster if there wasn't fresh water
Yes,
than
God
if there
forbid.
wasn't a police car on your street or something. But uh, but all kidding aside,
Yeah.
public safety is very important, and it's something that we as the council talk about regularly. Right? We look at crime stats. We
Mhm.
look at ways to keep people and property safe. At the town center, we added the town ambassadors. Right? You might have
Right.
got gentlemen, women, right, wearing little safety vests and with a
Mhm.
walkie-talkie and a flashlight, and they're there to enforce the rules of the town center. Right? Don't climb on top of the spaceship structure. You're supposed to be going inside of it. So we have the town ambassadors because
Right.
we've built a tremendous asset in the town center, in the town green, right, specifically, and the
Yeah.
playgrounds, and so added those people to protect it and the users of the town green. Then we also have, code enforcement, and their job is to keep uh, our properties and our property values by, dealing with issues like people not mowing their lawn, or people having a broken down vehicle in their driveway, or
Mhm.
people hours of operation, or noise, those types of things. And so our code enforcement officers, they're not police officers, right? They drive a pickup and they say, hey, you got to deal with this issue. And then a couple of years ago, as we were looking at how can we continue to enhance public safety, we created the city marshals program.
Mm-hmm.
I can share with you that, like, of the 8 cities that I mentioned in Gwinnett that are part of this police services district, 6 of those 8, now including Peachtree Corners, have marshals, right? So this is not something
I didn't
unique
know it was that
that
many. Okay.
that we've come up with. So Berkeley Lake has marshals, Sugar Hill has marshals, Beaufort has marshals, and most of those marshal programs are very similar. The people who are the marshals are what's post certified, POST, right, which is the Georgia Peace Officers Standards and Training. I probably got that acronym a little wrong. And so they're full-fledged law enforcement professionals. Here in Peachtree Corners and in most of the cities, they do carry a weapon. They're wearing uniforms, and so their job is to enforce city law, and also act as a supplement to Gwinnett Police, right? So that those our 3 marshals know our city well, help investigate situations, help collect information, and that sort of thing. So, and then the final group obviously is Gwinnett Police, that they're who respond when you dial 911, and their responsibility is to enforce, state laws. Like, all crime is defined by state law. We haven't invented new crimes here in the corners, but they're right. So, generally the severity side, homicide, assault, breaking and entering, and robbery. Those sorts. So when you dial 911, Gwinnett Police respond. So from my perspective, what's only what I've heard from my constituents is said, hey, Gwinnett police officers are fantastic. They're well trained, professional, well equipped, and I 100% agree. You're not going to hear me say anything bad about Gwinnett police. But what I have heard from people is that, is there an opportunity to keep Gwinnett police as the police force, but go to the county commission, who are the decision makers for the things I'm about to talk about, and say, how can we improve the service level? How can we improve things that are in the contract? I'll give you an example, Rico. We're the most populous city in Gwinnett. Can we reopen a police precinct here in Peachtree Corners? And I say reopen because folks who've been here a while might remember there was a Gwinnett police precinct. It was in what's now the Oldie Shopping Center. And it was the place where officers here in the southwest part of the county, they would check in for their shift, they would check out when they needed access to a computer, to sit down and write up a report, they would go to that place. And by having that precinct here, they were spending more time in the city of Peachtree Corners. They were more visible, more present. Another thing I've had people ask me to say, hey, Eric, I think Gwinnett Police does a great job. I would like to see them more often. Can we increase the number of officers who are assigned to our portion of the county? And so what I'd like to do is, and I can talk with my fellow council colleagues, say, well, let's go to the county commission, because they're the ones who they set the budget, they set the priorities for the police force, is to say, hey, we don't want to give notice about and exit the police services district, but we do want some additional services. And if the county commission says, okay, but that'll cost you more, and I would say, as a business person, okay, tell me how much more it would cost. And potentially we have resources already in the city budget to say we could, or a precinct. Yeah, we'll come up with space somewhere for the precinct. As that back in the late 2000, we still don't have a name for the first decade of the century, into that first decade, about half of it into the 2010s, there was that precinct in the all-day shopping center.
Yeah, but if I understand right too, I think maybe you guys may be approaching it where at least they can do, because I remember that precinct being in there, and it was used, but after a certain point, it wasn't used the way it was intended to be used, I think. And I think that if it's going to be used as quote a semi-precinct, they should be meeting there, right? They should be giving out reports there. They should be doing the business of policing there the same way they would do it at West Precinct, right?
Right.
Right. Versus it just being not to say it was a hangout place, but it wasn't being fully used or maximized the way it should have been, I think.
I 100% agree, Rico. Yeah, and I think and this would be part of the discussion with the county, particularly if we were the ones ponying up some or all of the funding for the precinct facilities. Say we expect it to be staffed and used as a precinct, right? So that there would
Right.
be a sergeant or two who are based there, and then the officers are coming there to check in and out, and that during certain business hours, people can go there to like, hey,
Right.
file a police report related to something that happened, a week earlier,
Right.
to take a
Yes.
statement, that those types of
Mhm.
things. When I did my ride along with a Gwinnett police officer a couple years ago, um, one of the things I observed was because he obviously knew, hey, you're a Peachtree Corners City Councilman, let's go patrol Peachtree Corners, right? And so we started driving from West Precinct, which for folks who don't know is at I-85 and Jimmy Carter, right? So it's
Hmm.
a little bit of a distance away. So we start driving here, and he gets a call. Oh, yeah, exciting! Except it's along Beaver Ruin. So we turn and
Right.
we go there. All right, let's go to Peachtree Corners. We start heading this way, and he gets a call, and this one's somewhere else. This is farther down I-85 in an apartment complex. So that night we were in Peachtree Corners. Uh, we did have a call for service at Lakeview Behavioral Health. A patient had gotten access to an outside line and said he was being held against his will, which probably is true. He didn't want to be at Lakeville Behavioral Health, but
Yeah.
so the officer had to go check out that. We also turns out the Chick-fil-A is a popular dinner place, so we had dinner at Chick-fil-A. Uh, but uh, and then the other one I recall is somebody uh, called for service. Hey, somebody wants to meet at West Precinct to file a complaint about their neighbor making threats against them. So we drove back to West Precinct.
And it was a Peachtree Corners resident?
I don't think it was
Oh,
specifically that
okay.
one. But what I've learned since then is that police precincts are often viewed as like very safe places. So there's,
Yes.
people will say, hey, if you're selling something on Craigslist,
Oh, for sure.
and they want to meet, to give
Right.
you the cash and you hand over the thing, we'll do it at a police precinct,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yeah.
less likely that they're going to try to pull something
I did
on
that
you.
once at the Norcross precinct. I didn't go
Right.
all the way. I went.
Well, there's an example, right? So you use City of Norcross's precinct as a safe zone,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Right. So if we had a precinct here in the city, people would use it for those same reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's value there. You know, the you know the number of officers patrolling the city in the city at any given time. I think we would all agree if it's a reasonable cost, who wouldn't want to have more officers,
Well,
right?
and I
In the
totally agree
city.
with you. If you like you said, listen, to stand up a police force, it would be north of 9, 10 million. I think that's the number everyone keeps banting about, but it'll probably be more than that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, in terms of the one thing I took away from that police study was we're generally in the ballpark, right? So
Yeah.
it wouldn't cost us 50 million a year to have a
No,
police
no.
department, nor would it cost us 500,000, right? No, it's plus or minus,
A million, million and a half.
right,
Right.
of the amount that
Right.
resident or property owners in Peachtree
Yeah.
Corners are currently paying. So it's
Yeah.
in the same ballpark. Um, but yeah, the effort to stand it up, yeah, that's the question, Rico. If we can keep Gwinnett Police as the police service
Mhm.
and improve the contract with some specific service levels, specific
Right.
commitments. I'll give you an example. The Tucker, excuse me, the Tucker Business Association
Yeah.
uh, recently did a similar study where they hired the Georgia Association of the Chiefs of Police,
Hmm.
and they said, hey, take a look at our area, take a look at our crime rates, take a look at DeKalb Police's staffing levels in the Tucker area, and come up with when we did our study here at Peachtree Corners, the question that was asked wasn't should we have a police department, it was what is the appropriate size of a police department
Right.
for our area,
Okay.
and based on that size, how much does that cost? Whether we should have one, of course, that's the city council's decision. And the consultant in our
Right.
report doesn't actually say whether or not you should have your own police department. It just talks about the service levels. So similarly in Tucker, so they had a couple of community meetings. They presented the results of the study. And so then DeKalb Police and the DeKalb County Administration also held the community meeting. Sounds very similar to here in Peachtree Corners, right?
Sure. Sure.
And so at that meeting, in DeKalb, it's not the county chair. She actually has the title CEO, right?
Mhm.
Lorraine, she led the meeting. The DeKalb chief of police was there as well, and they talked about, hey, we've heard you, and here's the additional investment we're going to make into the Tucker area. We're going to have 2 dedicated, they call them CSAs, like community support associates or something. We're going to increase the number of patrol cars, or the amount of patrol hours that we provide in the city of Tucker.
Really.
And she had a list of 4 or 5 things that
Mhm.
we hear you, that you want a higher level of service, and this is the commitment we're making to you. And I think we can certainly do something here in
Yeah,
Gwinnett as well.
and I would imagine there would be a committee or maybe citizens, maybe city council that would oversee the results of that, right? That would make sure that, not saying that they should check the timesheets necessarily, but my point is that they should make sure that what's being promised is actually being delivered, right? Because over the last, what is it, 4 months now, 5 months, I've seen way more police in Peachtree Corners. And I don't, sometimes I look at that and say, is that anecdotal maybe, or is that me just because I'm a bias awareness and stuff? But no, I've looked at it.
I think it's similar to the deer. We are seeing there are more of them,
Yes,
more police officers
yes,
in Peachtree Corners. Um,
yes.
to my understanding, their staffing levels haven't changed dramatically, so I think that's more a change in perhaps priorities than it is in number of
Which is good, right?
officers. Yeah, great.
I mean,
Hey, at the end of the day, the way I look at this, Rico, if if we get a precinct here in Peachtree Corners,
mhm.
and or we get additional officers, and or we get a commitment that a certain number of officers will spend most of their time in Peachtree Corners, that's a win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
To me,
Even
it's
if
not
the
about
city,
whether we have our own police department or not. It's about how do we improve public safety in the city.
I mean, if they can integrate, or if the sheriffs can have access to the information they need and be part of that, if they can be intimately part of it instead of like just a bystander of what's going on, right? That would help. That would amplify what their services provide. And
Right.
like you said, if the city has to pony up maybe, I don't know, another 500,000, 750,000 to make sure that staffing level or that stuff is where it needs to be, like you said. I mean, if the city needs to put up some more money to do that or to pay for a precinct, not to be built, but to be used,
No, it would be
you know,
rented space somewhere, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
uh-huh,
there'd be one-time costs
yeah,
to build it out, but
right.
you're not building a, a jail or holding cells, but
No,
you're building office space, right, where officers
uh-huh.
can come and
Short of that, you just want a place where people could come, where they do the business of policing
right.
here in Peachtree Corners.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Great. I mean, we had one before, and perhaps if you recall, Bert Nazzuti was a county commissioner,
Yes.
a resident here.
Yeah.
He's since moved away, but he lived in Revington. And uh, if I look at the timeline correctly, that during his time on county commission was, that's when that precinct was started. So,
Yes, I believe
and say,
so.
hey,
Yeah.
our current county commissioner, Commissioner Cardin's good guy. Chat with him many a time. He doesn't live in Peachtree Corners, right? So, but
Right.
that's not to say we can't lobby him. He's a former city of Duluth councilman, and city
Hmm.
of Duluth does have its own police force, so he certainly appreciates these issues. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. So, policing, I think, is most impactful when the police officers know the local community, they know the neighborhoods, they know the streets, um, and So whatever we can do as part of negotiating with the county commission to say, hey, how do we figure out how do we get folks who are more uh, uh, familiar with Peachtree Corners more visible, more present, right? Because at the end of the day, the priority should always be about reducing crime. We
Right.
want to solve crimes that would happen, but the best kind of crime, if there is such a thing, is the crime that doesn't take place.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you suppress crime? And I think that most people would say criminals are dumb, but they're not that dumb, right? So they go to places to commit crimes that, like, for if you're going to break into a car, they go to a place where there's stuff worth stealing.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff is stealable, is accessible without too much effort,
Right. Yeah.
and they don't expect to get caught. Now, this is not a knock on Gwinnett Police or any police department, right? But no criminal is going to go break into cars at the West Precinct parking lot, right? They're not that dumb, right? So they
Yes.
go places where they don't expect to get caught, and
Yeah.
if they're expecting to get caught, then I don't know what they're doing, right? So
Yeah.
I want them to, hey, if you come to Peachtree Corners,
Yeah.
not only are we going to solve it if you do commit a crime here, and we're going to find you, but I want you to go pick someplace else to go try to do that. Don't come here. People have said, hey, that's just a crazy dream, Eric, right? But when I ask people, I say, do you want to live, if your choices are a low crime city or a no crime city, which one do you
Mm.
want? Well, I want to live in the no crime city. Okay. So we have had a fairly moderate but flat crime rate for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
How do we push it down? I think we should be continuing to look for ways to keep driving it towards zero. Can we get to zero? I don't
I
know,
doubt it.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
let's do it. So the final story I'll tell you is this summer I was coming home from a concert on the town green.
Yeah.
So it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm driving. I know, Rico, you might. Actually, during my 2016 campaign, I drove it to your house when we this little 1976 Ford Courier pickup that I drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
This little truck that belongs to my wife. She
Uh-huh.
inherited it from a family friend. And so I'm coming home from the town green. I'm coming down Peachtree Corner Circle, and all of a sudden, all the lights on my dash start flickering. And I go, oh, what's going wrong with this car this time, right?
Mm.
And so
Mm.
I turn on to Spalding, and like my entire dash just goes dark.
Oh, wow.
And I initially hadn't realized this, but my headlights went out as well, right? So because briefly I was under a street light, and so I didn't detect. But all of a sudden I'm on Spalding, and I'm getting cars, flicking their high beams at me.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
turn on your headlights. And
Right.
so I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? I'm on Spalding. I got to get about a quarter mile more to turn. I can go into Spalding Corners and get off this road and get home where I've got some fuses and figure out what's going on. So I'm trying to decide what to do. And at that moment in time, blue lights turn on behind me. And so a Gwinnett police officer has decided to help me decide what I should be doing. And so I pull into the Church of Latter-day Saints
Yeah.
facility right at Jay Bird and Spalding.
Yeah.
And young officer comes up and he says, oh, what's going on tonight, boss? And I said, I think a fuse blew. I've just got a few streets to go and get off here. I understand it's not a good situation. So he said, what you been doing tonight? And I said, well, I was at a concert at the town green. And he
Mm.
said, what's the town green? And to jump to the end of the story, he asks for my license. I give it to him. He comes back and says, I see you literally live like right around the corner. And so here's what we're going to do. I'll follow you on Spalding to make sure somebody doesn't come behind you and hits you. Very nice. And once you turn off into the Neely Farm subdivision, you're on your own, but get your car fixed. I said, yes, sir. So it was a fine interaction. He's very professional. He was clearly, in my opinion, newish to the force, but because he was like more nervous than I was, it seemed like. But my takeaway was his question: what's the town green?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That if there was an officer who spent more time in the city, one would have known what the town green was.
Yeah.
And two, when I said, well, I live in Neely Farm, he would have said, oh, yeah, that's literally like 2 more streets down Spalding.
Yeah.
And And so what I like to do is figure out a way to get Gwinnett police to be able to provide that level of
to
service
be to
here
be
in
more
Peachtree
community
Corners. And right,
policing.
so where the ask is of the county commission, who, as I said, sets the budget, sets the priorities, sets the policies
Yeah.
for that police services district. And I'm confident we can come up with a some great improvements.
I'm sure there's going to be more to talk about this and in the coming month, 2 months. We spent a lot more time than I thought we were going to. There was a lot to talk about.
Well, yeah, maybe you can chunk it into 2 episodes or something.
No,
But
no, no, we don't cut these things. These go
all
from
right,
start to finish, and that's
all
the way
right,
this
all right.
runs. No production, no editing. It just goes. So for whoever's listening to this when we put this out, leave your comments if it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or certainly reach out to Eric. Eric, how can they reach out? I mean, I'll have it in the show
Yeah,
notes
the
and
best way,
stuff.
yeah, they just go to
Yeah,
the city website, City of Peachtree Corners. There's the a page with the
right.
mayor and city council. My email address is right on there.
There you go.
I do have my personal campaign website is Vote Christ. That's vote CHRIST.org.
Hmm.
And that has my contact information on
Excellent.
it as well.
Excellent. So peachtreecornersga.gov for
Correct.
the city website. I'll have links in the notes on this, on the show notes. And but certainly reach out if you have questions for Eric or any opinions about what we discussed tonight. Would be good to hear on this. But thank you all for coming and listening to us. Appreciate it. Hang in there with me, Eric, for a second. But everyone else, I appreciate you joining us. And check out the latest issue of Southwest Gwinnett Magazine. And we're currently working on Peachtree Corners, Faces of Peachtree Corners. That's going to be the January, February issue. So if you have any questions for us, check out our website, livinginpeachtreecorners.com. Thank you all. Bye.